All right, boys and girls, we're going to move on to lesson 2 for math, which is making bar graphs with scales. So if you don't know what a scale is, it's just really how you're counting by. So yesterday when we did picture graphs, I told you it was really important to look at the key because the key is what you're going to be counting by. So today we're going to go over how do we look at scales on a bar graph. So by the end of the lesson, you should be able to make a bar graph with scales to represent data. So let's look over here on this page. It says learn, make bar graphs from picture graphs. So 4 friends went for a nature walk. The picture graph on the next page shows the number of butterflies each friend saw. So notice this has a title. Anytime you do any type of graph, you need to give it a title. So this one says the number of butterflies seen. We know there was 4 friends and we have their names here. Juan, Kylie, Irene, and Caleb. And the key is super important. That is our scale in a picture graph, and it's going to tell us what we're counting by. So in this case, they're just, each one is, each butterfly just stands for 1. So Juan saw 4, so he has 4 butterflies. Kylie saw 10 butterflies. 8 butterflies, and 6 butterflies. So we look at this graph. This isn't quite a bar graph, but it's close to a bar graph. This information just comes from the picture graph above. So if you notice, even though Juan had 4 butterflies, he only has 2 squares. So you have to figure out what's the scale here. What is it counting by? Well, if you think, well, if Juan had seen 4 butterflies, it's really then 4 divided by 2 because he has 2 squares here. And once we do that, we'll be able to figure out what each square is. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. So each square stands for 2 butterflies. Who saw the most number of butterflies? Well, you look to see which bar is the highest. And then even though we don't have a scale on the side here, you can see the highest bar is the one who has the most butterflies. And in this case, Kylie, she saw the most butterflies. All right, let's go here where it says number 2, Mariana uses the data to make a vertical bar graph. A scale shows the value of the bars. In this scale, the vertical axis or grid line is marked 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. These markings represent the scale. So if we look where it says vertical axis, we haven't really talked about axis yet, but the axis is just the sides of the graph. So we have 2 axes. In this case, we have the vertical axis, which is just going up and down, and the horizontal axis goes left to right. So in this case, the vertical axis, it says the number of butterflies, and that's where our scale is. Here's the scale, 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. The horizontal axis goes left to right, and those are where the names of the friends are. Now, if we look here, you'll notice that it is counting by 2s, but there is a little dash in the middle, and you could figure out that this dash is 1 because 1 comes between 0 and 2. This dash is 3 because 3 comes between 2 and 4, and so on. While this is a vertical graph, this down here is a horizontal graph. And if you notice, it just means that the graph was kind of shifted and turned. So the title's the same. The name of friends, instead of it being on the bottom, it's on the side, on the vertical side. And the number of butterflies, instead of it being on the vertical side, it's on the horizontal side. But the scale is everything, is still the same. And the data is still the same. Caleb still saw 6, like he did here. Irene still saw 8, like she did here. Kylie saw 10, and Juan still saw 4. So it says Karina's graph uses a scale of 2. It starts with 0 and skips in 2s. The greatest number on the scale is 2 because it needs to include all the data. So I couldn't go only up to 8 on this graph because if I went up to 8, then the bars would be too far for the graph. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make one in front on your computer for you. Just be patient with me because it's a little hard on here. Normally, if I were to do this on the board, it would be much easier. So it says groups of students from King Elementary School took part in the school's field day. The chart shows the number of medals won by each group. So here's the data, and I need to take this data and turn it into a bar graph. Use the grid to make a bar graph that displays the data. In the table, give the bar graph a title. Label the vertical and horizontal axis of the graph. So first, let me make my title. And I'm just going to use the title from the picture, the data graph I have here. It's just going to title it Metals 1. Now I need to figure out, am I going to put the groups horizontal or vertical? And am I going to put the number of metals on the vertical side or the horizontal side? I think I'm going to put the groups on the vertical side. Oops. All right. Like I said, just bear with me as I try to rotate this. There we go. So my groups is going to go on this side, and on the bottom I'm going to have the number of metals. All right, so let me get my different groups. So my groups are here. Evergreen's my first group. Oh, sorry guys, my hands are slipping. All right, so let's try this again. Evergreen, copy, paste. So evergreen, I guess we'll put evergreen right here. Then birch will go here on this bar. Then maple, gum, and bay. Now you could have decided to do a vertical bar graph, but in this case I'm doing a horizontal one, and that just means that the bars are going left to right instead of up and down. All right, so now I need to make the bars based on this data. Well, if I look at the numbers, my graph needs to go up to at least 18. So I need to think, well, what could my scale be then? Usually the best scales count by 2s or 5s. So I can do 2s, because if I do 2, it would be 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. So this will go up to 20. So I can do a scale of 2. So remember, you always start off with 0. So I have 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. And they line up just about here. Let me move them over. Some of them I kind of got to move over. Oops. All right, so I tried to label them the best that I could. So now it's time to make the bars. So if I look at evergreen, evergreen went up to 10. So I'm going to take my bar from here, and I'm going to go to where it's the bar 10 and stop there. Birch went up to 14. So about there. Maple went up to 18. Gum went up to 12. and Bay went up to 16. So there's our bar graph. All right, so now I need to answer some questions about what I did. So it says, answer each question. How did you decide on a scale for your graph? So I need to think, how did I figure out that I needed to do my scale by 2? So if I think back to my graph, I needed to have a graph that went up to at least 18 because 18 was my biggest value. So I couldn't go by 1s. If I went by 5s, then it would have went too high. So I decided on my scale. Let's see. First, I looked at the highest value I had on my data. The scale of 2 would allow me to go to at least 18, which was the highest value I had. What was the greatest number on your scale? The greatest number on my scale was 20. I counted by 2 and there were 10 boxes. All right. Only groups that won 10 or more medals are shown in the table. In all, 100 medals were won. How many medals were not shown in the chart? So that has a lot to do with figuring out how many medals weren't shown. So I do have my graph here. And I'm not going to keep it here, but I do want to count how many medals I had in all. So Evergreen, there were 10. Birch had 14. 10 plus 14 is 24. 24 plus 18. 24 plus 18 would be, let's see, I'm doing that in my head. 24 plus 18 would be 42. So I have 42 up to here. 42 plus 12 would be 54. So 54 out of these 4 plus 16. That would bring me to 70. So if it said that there were 100 medals in all, how many medals were not shown in the chart? 30 medals were not shown in the chart. I added all 5 groups that I had and got 70, then subtracted 70 from 100. Practice making bar graphs from picture graphs. Use the data in the tally chart to complete each graph. So now this time we're going from a tally chart to a picture graph and a picture graph to a bar graph. So Ian recorded the number of model cars that he and his friends collected in the tally chart. So our model cars, Ian had 6, Anya had 8, Axel had 12, and Lily had 2. So now I need to make a picture graph. Now notice my key. This key, each square stands for 2. So I'm not going to have 6 squares for Ian because Ian had 6 squares. I'm not going to have 6 squares for Ian because each square stands for 2. So all we're going to do is we're going to count by 2s until we reach the number that they had. So Ian had 6. So we have 2, 4, 6. So now I only have 3 squares. Anya had 8. So we have 2, 4, 6, and 8. So now I can stop because she had 8 cars. Axel had 12. So I need 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. And I'll stop there because Axel had 12. Each stands for 2. And Lily just had 2. So for Lily's case, I only need 1. Because that stands for 2. Now I need to look here and turn it into a bar graph. So the number of model cars, it looks like the scale goes by 2. 0, 2, 4, 6. So I'm going to put 8, 10, and 12. And then it says I have Anya, Axel, Lily. So I need to put in the missing person's name. Well, that would just be Ian. He's the missing person. So the scale on the bar graph has a skip of 2. All right, so that's all we're going to do for today. I will post a new lesson for Monday. I would like for you to enjoy your weekend. The read aloud will be posted as well. I actually did post it on the YouTube channel already. And make sure you sign on to HMH to complete your assignment. I might have it up. Let me sign in. I actually do want to show you that. So once you go to HMH, you're going to excuse me, you're going to see this email spot. You're going to put your email in. You're not going to put mine in. You're going to put your email in. And then your password. The one that has NHCCS in it. So when it loads, you're going to go to the assignment link, which is right above. It's unfortunately cut off on the computer view, but right here, you're going to go right above, and it's right above there. And you're going to click assignments, and you're going to view all the assignments. So there's 3 up right now. So if I look at the assignment posted a few days ago, I only have 5 completed. The assignment yesterday is 4, and today just 1. So make sure you get those all done by Sunday because that will be counting as classwork.